The sky was bleeding metal. Jace Kellen lay belly down on the ridge's edge, dirt caking his lips, dust choking his lungs, and sweat pouring down his spine in rivers. The twin suns burned overhead like dying gods, turning the cracked rock and shattered wasteland below into a shimmering furnace of light and distortion. He kept his eye against the scope, his gloved finger hovering just beside the trigger, but he didn't shoot. Not yet. He was bait. And the monsters he was waiting for? They were already here. The galactic hunters weren't just feared across systems, they were whispered. Apex predators from the planet SSYNTA Prime, engineered in bioforges, raised on kill rights and extinction wars. They didn't operate like armies or mercenaries. They weren't hired. They didn't negotiate. They hunted. For trophies. For sport. For extinction. And today, they'd picked Earth. 6 of them now. Down there in the canyon. Standing still like statues in that brutal heat, their obsidian carapace armor gleaming with faint green bioluminescence, long spears of nerve wire and antiphase disruptors resting in their clawed hands. They didn't talk. They just moved, slow and careful, scanning the dead valley like apex beasts sniffing prey. One had a bloodstained skull mounted on its shoulder. Human. Jace's heart kicked against his ribs like it wanted out. He didn't blink. There was no backup in sight. No orbiting drones. No evac. Just a battered long-range transmitter jammed into the rock behind him, the signal light red. And the mission was clear. Confirm presence. Get eyes on. Survive long enough to send coordinates. No one said how he was supposed to survive 6 SSYNTA hunters. Jace let out a breath. Focused. It was just him now. Him, the rifle, and the endless dust-drenched heat. He nudged his head slightly, adjusting the optic overlay. The lens flickered with outlines. Distances. Heart rates. One of the hunters looked up. Directly. At him. Jace didn't have time to curse before the world exploded. The first spear screamed through the air like a banshee and slammed into the rock 6 inches from his face, detonating on impact. The blast threw him backward, ears ringing, blood in his mouth. The ridge cracked and gave way, sliding out under him, and Jace tumbled, rolling, smashing, choking on grit, until he landed hard on a flat shelf of sunbaked stone 10 meters down. Then they opened fire. Plasma rounds lit the air like a thunderstorm. Shattered stone flew in shards. Dirt kicked up in geysers. Jace scrambled, rifle slipping from his hands, pain lancing through his side. He tried to move. Too slow. One of them landed in front of him, an 8-foot horror wrapped in coiled black plate, its helmet split down the middle with biotube lines pumping faintly glowing fluid along its limbs. It looked like a nightmare sculpted from bone and machine. Jace went for the sidearm. Too slow again. The hunter slammed its boot down on his chest and cracked his ribs. He screamed. The hunter tilted its head, studying him like a bug. Then it spoke, low, guttural, in a voice like gravel and rusted gears. Earthspawn. Fragile. Weak. Its gauntlet flexed. Jace's vision was swimming. The pain was white-hot, a spike in his lungs. Blood filled his mouth. He wanted to fight. Wanted to scream. But the world was a blur, and the sky above felt miles away. The hunter raised its spear. Then Jace smiled. Not because he wanted to, but because this was the plan. He blinked twice. Slowly. Purposefully. A movement so subtle, no organic enemy would have noticed. The beacon in his helmet clicked once. The signal light blinked green. Above the atmosphere, hidden in the shadow of the system's second moon, a dead satellite blinked online. Inside it, a classified protocol began transmitting. Signal received. Authorization, Reaper. The hunter hesitated. Perhaps it noticed. Perhaps it didn't. Either way, it didn't matter. It pressed the spearhead down, directly against Jace's sternum. I will take your skull, it said. Jace coughed blood. Better hope, he rasped, you live that long. A sound hit the sky above. A sound like nothing natural. The hunter looked up. So did the others. And for the first time in Jace's short, brutal military career, he saw them pause. Not out of fear. Not yet. Out of instinct. The sky had changed color. Just slightly. A pulse of pressure split the air, inaudible, but bone deep. A vibration that hit the back of your teeth and made the fluid in your skull feel like it wanted to burst out. The wind changed direction. The heat pulled back. The sun dimmed. Then something screamed through the upper atmosphere. A thin line. No bigger than a needle at first. Then it grew. Fast. Hot. Bright. A dropship? No. Too fast. Not a ship. Not a missile. A coffin. Black. Burning. Falling so fast it tore the clouds apart in its wake. And it was coming straight for them. Jace couldn't see much anymore. But he could hear the whine. High-pitched. Growing louder. Like a banshee locked in a turbine. The hunters stepped back. Others moved into formation. Defensive arcs. Spear positions. Shoulder-mounted cannons warming up. It wouldn't matter. Jace closed his eyes as the sonic boom cracked open the sky like thunder in a cave. The object smashed into the canyon floor not 20 meters from where he lay. A fireball erupted. Rock split. Heat waves blasted out in concentric waves, knocking over even the SSYNT. Smoke mushroomed upward in a plume of screaming debris and vaporized stone. The ground shook. And from the crater, something stepped out. It wasn't large. Not hulking. But the silhouette was wrong. Wrong because it moved too smooth. Too clean. A lean, matte black figure emerged from the steam and flame, dragging a rifle longer than its own body behind it like it weighed nothing. Its armor was soft-edged, too advanced to be military spec. Ribbed with smart filament muscle, glinting faintly with coded nanolights that pulsed like a heartbeat. Its face was hidden behind a helmet shaped like a blank mask. 2 slits for eyes. No mouth. No insignia. But the eyes. The eyes glowed red. And the thing moved toward them with the weight of inevitability. No sound. No announcement. Just the crunch of boots on broken stone. One of the hunters fired. The bolt screamed forward. The black figure vanished. Reappeared 6 feet to the left. In the same motion, it raised its rifle. Crack. The sound wasn't normal. It sounded like a building collapsing. The shot slammed into the hunter's chest. Through its chest. The alien flew back 5 meters, limbs twisting in the air, midsection reduced to a hole the size of a dinner plate. Dead before it hit the ground. The other hunters stepped back, unreadable for once. Jace blinked, half delirious. He knew the stories. Everyone in Black Ops did. You didn't request Reaper. You deployed him when you wanted to send a message. He was a myth in the systems. A human project that got buried in classified black ink, only reappearing when entire outposts went silent. But he was here now. And he was moving fast, too fast to track, even with augmented vision. One moment behind cover. Next moment mid-air. Then a flash of that rifle, another hunter down, limbs scattered across the rocks. Jace laughed, a wet, broken sound. He passed out before the third body hit the floor. Silence wasn't supposed to feel heavy. Not in the aftermath of a battlefield. But the air in the canyon didn't just fall still, it held its breath. Dust choked the sky in swirling waves. Smoke bled from the crater's heart. And the 6-foot-tall figure that had walked from fire and ruin didn't slow. Didn't speak. Didn't posture. It just moved forward, methodical, steady, silent, as if the battlefield belonged to it already. To him. The SSYNT war hunters had fought every known species in the outer spiral. They'd broken siege lines on 11th Prime. Melted through Jovan bunkers. Their armor could survive orbit burns. Their reflexes were encoded directly into their nervous systems. But nothing in their long history taught them how to process what now walked toward them across the shattered rock. Reaper. He was no larger than the average human male. Slender in build. Agile. Unnaturally so. And yet he walked like something ancient and unburdened, the long-barreled weapon in his right hand dragging across the stone with a whispering rasp. The dust parted around him, almost avoiding him, like even the air knew it wasn't supposed to touch this thing. Behind the mask, 2 red ocular slits glowed with steady power. The helmet was smooth, matte, with no logos or numbers. No rank. No call sign. But everyone who fought long enough knew what he was. The Earthborn Kill Command codeword was simple: Reaper. 1-man deployment. 0 backup. No extractions. Target: eliminate everything. The SSYNT war chief stepped forward from his line. Taller than the rest, with triple-scarred tusks etched into his helmet and a pulsed tether spear that hummed with ionized static. His name was Krolvet, a destroyer-class hunter who had dismembered human officers with his bare hands during the Second Eclipse skirmish. He leveled his spear at the black-clad figure. "You are alone," Krolvet rumbled, deep voice like a rusted forge. "One flesh thing. No warband. No gunship. You came to die." Reaper didn't stop walking. Krolvet's eyes narrowed behind the lens. "Then die." The war chief lunged, spear slicing through the air with a sonic wail. Reaper moved like the wind slicing through a wire. One step to the left, and Krolvet missed. Not because Reaper dodged, but because he was already gone. His silhouette bent, shimmered, blurred, something not quite in phase, a distortion in the way humans weren't supposed to move. Crack. The sound came before Krolvet registered the recoil. The top half of the war chief's body spiraled away in a mist of blood and splintered bone. His lower torso dropped, still clutching the spear, knees twitching. The 5 remaining hunters roared in unison, but it wasn't anger. Not battle rage. Not pride. It was panic. Reaper raised his rifle, a custom-issue piece, illegal in most of the system quadrants. Long-barreled, triple-chambered, vented with rear-split stock. The ammunition glowed faintly, .50 cal depleted uranium, core-primed, rail-assisted. Every shot was a thunderclap. And he didn't miss. The first round exploded through a SSYN-tie's chest, spinning it backward like a broken marionette, limbs flailing midi before it slammed into a stone wall. The second hit a hunter in the thigh, the leg severed at the hip, launching the alien sideways in a shriek of alien blood and cracking bone. The third didn't fire. Because Reaper had vanished again. He was in motion, faster than gravity, low to the ground, moving like liquid shadow. The hunters fired. Bolts of plasma hissed through the air. Rocks shattered. But Reaper was never where they aimed. Always a step beyond, always ghosting between their vision cones. He slid under a volley, holstered the rifle on a mag-sling, and pulled his second weapon. A high-torque pulse blade, 18 inches of gleaming monomolecular edge. The nearest hunter never saw it coming. Reaper's blade went in through its throat and out through the base of its skull, in one smooth arc. No hesitation. No drag. He spun on the dismount, driving a boot into another's gut, firing a pistol shot point-blank under its chin. Blood. Screams. Armor cracking like glass. 3 down. The last 2 backed up, armor hissing, comms flaring in silent language. They circled, trying to get angles, twitching with predatory tension. One leveled a smart cannon, shoulder-mounted and glowing with phase light. Reaper tilted his head, watching, calculating. Then he smiled beneath the helmet. He pulled something small from his belt, a curved shard of metal with a blinking core. Clicked it once. Tossed it gently. The smart cannon locked onto it. Fired. The shard exploded midi with a magnetic pulse, overloading the weapon's core. The smart cannon backfired in a blast of white-hot plasma, engulfing the hunter that fired it. Flesh vaporized. Metal bent inward. The scream ended fast. One left. It didn't run. It charged. A final act of pride. Or suicide. Hard to say. The hunter roared and leapt, both arms swinging down in a double-strike hammer blow meant to pulp human bone. Reaper ducked under the first, stepped sideways into the second, took the full brunt across his shoulder. Armor cracked. Reaper grunted, stumbled back. The hunter surged forward. And then Reaper stabbed it in the knee. Not a killing blow, a surgical one. To ruin its balance. It dropped to one side. Reaper was already on top of it, knife in one hand, pistol in the other. He shoved the knife up under its chin, into the brainstem. Then he fired through its open mouth. Blood and bone rained against the canyon wall. Reaper stood alone, breathing. The battlefield was a mess of steam and carcass and twitching limbs. Jace Kellen was still alive. Barely. He gasped back to consciousness just as Reaper walked toward him. His vision was a red fog, pain flaring with each heartbeat, breath ragged through punctured lungs. He felt more dead than alive. But he was alive. Reaper knelt, pulled a medical injector from his hip pouch. "You held out," he said, voice even, calm, flat, filtered through modulated speakers. Jace coughed blood, blinked up at the blank mask. "I thought you were a myth." Reaper jabbed the injector into his neck. So did they. The med foam hissed, spreading through Jace's body, sealing wounds, slowing the bleeding. Not enough to walk, but enough to survive. Behind Reaper, the wind shifted. Then came the sound. A shriek, high-pitched, inhuman, not from the fallen. Reaper turned his head slightly. The mountain ridge above the canyon fractured, and something massive stepped over the ridge. 12 feet tall, 6 arms, a fusion reactor heart pulsing in its chest, a hive-merged SSYN-TAI warform, 3 hunters fused together, operating as one, limbs locked in spinal sync. It screamed again, a sound like murder and fire and ancient fury. Reaper stood, straightened, holstered his pistol. He looked at Jace, still on the ground. You still conscious? Yeah, Jace coughed. For now. Good. Reaper pulled his second rifle from his back, this one heavier. Box-fed. Rotary chamber. Loaded with sabos. He started walking toward the monster. I want you to watch. The canyon echoed with the warform's roar, a monstrous bellow that shattered loose rock and sent birds fleeing for miles. The hive-merged abomination stood at the ridge's edge, 12 feet tall, chitin armor fused with molten cybernetics. Its limbs twitched with unnatural synchronicity. 3 SSYN-TAI minds merged into one berserker consciousness. Its core reactor pulsed in its chest like a second heart, burning neon green, surrounded by twisted bone and war metal. Jace, belly propped against a slab of scorched rock, stared with blood-smeared eyes and whispered, "What the hell is that?" Reaper didn't answer. He didn't need to. He'd already seen hive warforms in the black files. Off-record engagements. Deep buried. Officially denied. One had wiped out an entire company on Vega 4. Another had turned the Mars resistance red. No one had survived contact. Reaper clicked the side of his rotary rifle. A low, rising hum filled the air, the core spool heating up, stabilizers locking. The gun looked like something torn from an engine block, belt fed from a drum that glowed with warning sigils. It wasn't built for infantry. It was built for gods of war. The warform dropped into the canyon like a meteor, seismic. The ground cratered beneath its feet. Its scream didn't echo. It overrode the air, rupturing pressure. Then it charged, fast and low, like a multi-limbed battering ram. Reaper didn't flinch. He stepped forward and opened fire. The gun howled. Not a bark. Not a burst. A full-throated scream of lead and fire. The sabos tore through the air in streams, glowing with heat, slamming into the warform's chest hard enough to peel back armor. Sparks and ichor burst in sprays. Metal bent. Bone cracked. The beast staggered, reeled back, but didn't fall. It lunged again. Reaper dove aside as the fused limbs smashed the earth where he'd stood, sending stone shrapnel in every direction. One swipe tore a gouge 3 feet deep across the canyon floor. Another nearly caught Reaper mid-roll, missing by inches. Jace watched, half delirious, jaw slack. That's not a soldier. That's not even a thing. Reaper circled the creature, boots crunching, posture low. He fired again, a controlled burst across the warform's thigh, shearing muscle, detonating a knee joint. The creature dropped to one side, but instead of falling, it rolled into the motion, reorienting itself on 5 limbs. The 6th came whipping around like a spike-tip club, caught Reaper mid-dash. Crack. He flew 10 meters. Slammed into the canyon wall. The impact cratered the rock. Silence. Smoke. Then movement. Reaper stood up. His armor was cracked across the ribs, shoulder plating twisted. Blood ran from his mouth. But his spine was straight, his grip steady, and his eyes behind that mask still glowed red. The warform let out a laid screech, 3 mouths snarling in imperfect unison. Reaper holstered the rotary gun. It wasn't enough. Not fast enough. He activated his wrist rig. There was a hiss. Then blades deployed, long, retractable, dual-phase plasma edges, humming with a faint red glow. These weren't knives. They were close-quarter execution tools. And Reaper moved. Fast. The warform swiped again, missing by inches. Reaper slid under its reach, blades flashing. One arm, gone at the elbow, severed clean. The beast howled, twisted, stabbed with a broken limb. Reaper leapt over it, flipped off the monster's shoulder, landed behind it, and stabbed both blades into the fusion core's vent lines. The wolform convulsed. Plasma bled out. Then it backhanded Reaper into a jagged outcrop, slamming him spine first. Jace tried to sit up. Failed. Come on, come on. The wolform advanced, dragging one ruined limb behind it, reactor exposed, leaking radioactive steam. It knew pain, knew rage, knew the kill. Reaper pulled himself up. His mask cracked on one side. Red blood mixed with soot on his chin. But his blades were still charged. Final protocol, he whispered. He reached into his belt pouch, pulled a black disc the size of his palm. Primed it with a flick. Jace saw the light on it blink. Red. Then blue. Then steady white. Is that antimatter? Reaper locked eyes with the monster. One use. He ran. Straight at it. The wolform screamed and swung with all 6 arms. Reaper ducked one. Deflected another. Vaulted the third. He reached the chest plate, leapt, jammed the disc directly into the fusion reactor center, and shoved off with everything he had, flipping backward through a spray of plasma and pain. The wolform tried to grab at it. Too late. The disc beeped once. Then the world exploded. Not fire. Not heat. Absence. The antimatter charge didn't create a fireball. It created a hole. A sucking void that erased matter within 2 meters. The wolform vanished mid-scream. One moment alive. The next disassembled at the atomic level, gone in a flash of white light and vapor. The shockwave hit a second later, flattening the canyon in a radius. Jace ducked, arms over his head, feeling the pressure hammer his chest and shake his bones. Debris rained down. Smoke flooded the air. The canyon wall cracked, caved, roared down in a landslide of pulverized stone. Then silence. True silence. Until a cough. Then a shadow. From the edge of the dust cloud, a figure stumbled through. Staggered. Burned. Bleeding. But upright. Reaper. Helmet cracked in half. Blood across one eye. Armor shredded along one arm. But he walked like a ghost, slow, relentless, straight toward Jace. Is it dead? Jace asked, breathless. Reaper stopped. Looked back. Nothing remained of the wolform. Just a scorched crater and faint static in the air where atoms had ceased to exist. Yeah, he said. It's dead. Jace let out a half-laugh, half-sob. You're not even real. Reaper knelt beside him again. Slid a stimpack into his foreport. Jace gasped as it surged through his veins, strength returning, enough to sit up. You okay? Reaper asked. No, but I'm not dead. That's enough. Far above, the sound of engines echoed. A dropship, Earth colors, black and cobalt, circled down. You called back up. Jace blinked. No Reaper stood. They tracked the detonation. Finally showed up. The ship's ramp opened. Reaper looked back at the battlefield, the corpses, the shattered stone, the black smee where the hive wolform had stood. He didn't smile. Didn't speak. He just turned and walked toward the ship. Jace was pulled up by medtechs. Loaded onto a stretcher. As they carried him aboard, one soldier looked at Reaper and whispered, So, are you even cleared for deployment? Reaper didn't respond. Just sat in the corner of the hold, head down, blood drying on his hands. Jace looked at him one last time before blacking out. He'd remember that stare forever. Not just because Reaper had saved him, but because of what he'd said before charging the monster. Final protocol. Which meant he hadn't planned to come back. They didn't put him in the main hold. Didn't even check his vitals. Reaper sat in the cold rear bay of the gunship, boots planted, forearms resting on his knees, eyes watching the floor like it might speak. He was still streaked in dried blood, helmet cracked, armor blackened with ash. None of the Earth forces on board dared speak to him. Not the pilot. Not the medtechs. Not the armed security stationed by the exit ramp like they were guarding a rabid dog. They didn't know what to do with him. Because you didn't debrief a Reaper. You buried him. Jace Kellen woke twice on the flight back to orbit. Both times, he turned his head, expecting to see the cold-eyed phantom that had saved his life. But each time, Reaper hadn't moved. Still. Silent. Watching ghosts no one else could see. The gunship docked with the ESS Horizon Bastion an hour later, Earth's last forward operating dreadnought in the sector. A fortress in space, crawling with railgun batteries, shield pylons, and orbital drop teams. It should have felt like safety. It didn't. As soon as the ramp dropped, they were waiting. Not medics. Not commanders. Black Sigil. Earth Intelligence Command's wet ops wing. The kind of men who didn't wear ranks. Just black coats, dead eyes, and gloves that never got blood on them. They didn't speak to Reaper. Just signaled. He stood. Walked past them. No resistance. Like he already knew. Wait. Jace tried to sit up from his stretcher, pain flaring through his gut. Where are you taking him? One of the operatives stopped. Cold smile. He's not part of your war anymore, Lieutenant. You kidding me? Here's the reason I'm still breathing. The man leaned in. No. Here's the reason a top-secret antimatter charge was detonated in a civilian buffer zone. Here's the reason Earth Command has 6 dead hunters and no legal justification for retaliation. Here's the reason we're cleaning up your goddamn mess. He turned and left. Jace's blood went cold. Not from pain. From something worse. Because he realized. They weren't protecting Reaper. They were containing him. The cell wasn't on any schematic. No cameras. No logs. No questions. Just a steel box buried 15 levels beneath the Bastion's main decks, reinforced with lead maglocks and grave inhibitors. The kind of place you sent people who couldn't be allowed to speak again. Reaper sat in the center of it, stripped of armor, shirtless. His body was lean, scarred, brutalized by years of work most humans weren't meant to survive. But he didn't shiver, didn't blink, just waited. Until the door hissed open. And she walked in. Commander Halen Vex. Sharp suit. Hair tied back in a severe coil. Eyes like stone blades. She was Black Sigil's surgical knife, the one they sent when they needed precision silence. Hello, Reaper, she said like it was just another Tuesday. He didn't respond. I'm not going to ask how you got deployed, she continued. We both know you weren't cleared. No Reaper has been field authorized in 9 years. Technically, you don't exist anymore. He looked up, one eye bruised and bloodshot. Still got results. Oh, you got more than that, she said with a wry smile. You got attention. She slid a tablet onto the table. It showed the aftermath of the canyon. Satellite footage. One crater where the wolfform used to be. Dead hunters surrounding it like burnt statues. No traces of the antimatter disk. No proof it wasn't Earth-issued. You've embarrassed the diplomatic corps, the high command, and every suit in orbit trying to keep this war from boiling over. Not to mention, she tapped the screen, your body count just triggered a war crime audit. Reaper leaned back. Funny. Wasn't a war when I dropped. It is now. Silence. Then she asked the question that wasn't a question. Why did you deploy? Reaper looked at her. No mask now. No voice filter. Just a tired, ragged man with too many ghosts behind his eyes. I heard the distress call, he said simply. That call was buried. Triple encrypted. Off record. I heard it anyway. You were supposed to be dead. He didn't answer. She leaned forward. We buried you for a reason, Cade. The name hit the air like a gunshot. Jace had never heard it. But Halen had. And Cade Reaver, the original Reaper, hadn't been spoken about since the day Earth Command tried to erase him. He smiled faintly. It didn't reach his eyes. You buried me because I saw what you were doing. On Vega. On Luna 9. I stopped following blackout orders. Started saving the wrong people. You broke chain of command. I stopped killing civilians. You're not a soldier, she snapped. You're a tool. A scalpel. When the scalpel disobeys, it gets discarded. Reaper stood. Walked slowly to the edge of the table. Then why am I still breathing? She didn't answer. He leaned in close, voice low. Because you need me. No, she said coldly. I need you quiet. She tapped her comm once. Doors opened. 2 Black Sigil operatives entered. Big. Armed. Trained for this. Reaper looked at them like they were already dead. Vex stood. I don't want a mess. You know what the neural silencer does. Sit down. Take the injection. Sleep. Reaper didn't move. One of the operatives stepped forward, needle in hand. The lights flickered. The next 3 seconds were blurry. Reaper moved like a curse unchained. Disarmed the first man with a bone-shattering twist. Broke the second's nose with a back elbow. Spun. Grabbed the injection and stabbed it into his heart. He collapsed mid-scream. The first tried to draw his pistol. Reaper kicked it sideways, shattered his wrist, and slammed him into the wall, so hard the metal bent. Silence. Vex hadn't moved. But her hand hovered over her sidearm. "You won't get off this ship," she said. "There are 50 soldiers between here and any exit." Reaper stepped over the bodies. Calm. "I'm not trying to escape." "Then what are you doing?" He looked her dead in the eyes. "Finishing what you started." He pulled a drive from one of the operatives' belts. Plugged it into the wall port. Accessed the internal deck maps. Keycard logs. Terminal traces. And he found it. The name. The log. The authorization for the antimatter disk. Someone had pulled it from the vault. Someone had issued it. And it wasn't him. His eyes narrowed. "They sent me in to die," he said softly. "But someone made sure I had enough firepower to turn the canyon into a crater." Halen went still. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying someone inside Black Sigil wants the war to start." He yanked the drive free. And then, he smiled. Not the tired, ghost-hollow grin he'd worn for years. But something worse. A smile that said, "If you buried me once, you better have done it right." Because the Reaper was back. And now? Now, he had a target. They sealed the lower decks within 6 minutes. Corridors locked. Defense turrets spun live. Internal security codes rotated on a 10-second loop. Vex's voice roared over the intercom, commanding containment, silence, shoot on sight. None of it mattered. Because Reaper was already inside. He didn't go loud. Not at first. He ghosted through the Black Ops sublevels like memory and smoke. One operative never saw the blade slip between his ribs. Another turned just in time to catch a sonic dart between the eyes, dead before his body hit the floor. He didn't speak. Didn't breathe heavy. Just moved. With surgical, predator precision. The data drive pulsed inside his wrist slot, decrypted now. He knew the name. The author of the authorization. The man who signed off on Jace's death, the antimatter bomb, the silent betrayal. Admiral Corin Thorne. Earth Command's Ghost King. The one who had denied the Reaper program ever existed, then pulled the trigger to send one back into the meat grinder. And Reaper wasn't going to leak the truth. He was going to bleed it out of him. Up on Command Deck 01, the Admiral stood in his glass-walled sanctum, watching Starfield shimmer beyond the Bastion's shield lattice. His back was straight, his white uniform crisp. A decanter of old Terran Scotch sat on the steel table next to him, untouched. Halen Vex stood behind him, half panicked, half stunned. "You said he couldn't access core files," she said. "He wasn't supposed to," Thorne replied. "He has the drive." "You had one job, Vex. Contain him. You should have let him rot." Thorne turned. His face was cut from stone. Cold eyes, titanium jaw. "If we let him rot, we'd have no proof of the Hive warform test. No justification to strike first. Now we do. You played him. I activated a weapon. That's what he is." "You made a god bleed," she said. "And you think he won't come back for the throne?" The doors behind them exploded inward. Not breached. Torn. Metal warped outward like it had been punched by a meteor. Smoke curled through the gap. Alarms screamed. Guards raised rifles. And Reaper walked in. No armor. Just his black undersuit, scorched and blood-streaked. 2 pistols maglocked to his thighs. A curved plasma dagger reversed in his hand. His eyes locked on Thorne. "Close the room," the Admiral whispered. The guards opened fire. Reaper vanished. 2 of them were down before their clips were half empty, throats cut, eyes wide, weapons clattering. The third got a shot off, tagged Reaper's shoulder, but then took a round through the visor, dead before he slumped. Only Vex remained, breathing hard. Reaper raised the pistol. She didn't flinch. "Do it," she said. He didn't. "Step aside," he said. She stared. "You think this changes anything? You kill him. Someone else takes his place. You shoot your way through the chain of command, or you'll find at the top is more of the same. I know, Reaper said. But it's a start. She hesitated, then stepped aside. Thorn hadn't moved. He stood with one hand behind his back, the other calm by his side. You're a ghost, he said. I made sure of it. You don't exist. You should have killed me, Reaper replied. I did. Reaper advanced. You were never meant to survive deployment, Thorn said. You were a story. A scarecrow. We built you to die loudly, to justify the war. And you did your part. Now lay down. Be forgotten. You're going to confess, Reaper said. Confess what? You ordered the war form released. You set the trap. You used me. Because I knew what you'd do, Thorn said. The galaxy doesn't need soldiers. It needs weapons with will. And you're the last of them. Reaper looked at him. And finally, something like a grin broke his face. You're wrong. He raised the pistol. Thorn didn't plead. Didn't move. Just closed his eyes. I created you, he said. And Reaper whispered. Then die knowing what you made. The shot cracked like thunder. The Admiral hit the ground. Dead. No ceremony. No grand speeches. Just a single round, between the eyes, and silence. Jace woke 2 hours later in the medbay, ribs wrapped in Regan foam, bloodstream humming with painkillers. The lights were low. The medics were gone. But someone sat in the corner. A shadow. You came back, Jace said, hoarse. Reaper didn't answer. I heard the gunfire. You walked into the lion's mouth. Reaper stood. I needed to end it. You did. He nodded once. Jace sat up, wincing. They are saying you killed Thorn. They'll deny it. What now? Reaper looked at him. No mask. No armor. Just a man. There are others, he said. Other programs. Other shadows. Earth Command's House of Glass has a lot of cracks. You going rogue? I'm already gone. Jace tried to laugh. Ended up coughing. You're not going to make it easy for them. Not my job. Reaper turned to leave. Jace called after him. You saved me. Reaper paused. You were never the mission. I know. Reaper looked over his shoulder, eyes dark. But you were the reason I didn't stay buried. Then he was gone. They called it a systems failure. They called it rogue AI. They called it everything except what it really was. One man refusing to stay dead. Hale and Vex resigned a week later. Disappeared off the grid. The black sigil files on Project Reaper were erased. What wasn't erased was corrupted by a viral code string. Reaper never misses. Jace Kellen returned to Earth 2 months later. Quiet commendation. No medal. No parade. But every now and then, when the sky went red and the broadcast talked of rogue Black Ops strikes on corrupt command ships, Jace would smile. He knew who it was. Because Reaper wasn't dead. And he wasn't done. He was just getting started.